hard to get these just the way they got them. Look at that deer. I think this is an Ulrich. Probably engraved this.
So you're going back in and putting some factory engraving back on one, or
yeah, putting a factory pattern
pattern
on this gun. Copying a factory pattern. This gun was made plain. Which was often the case.
So did they have like a catalog that you could order it out of?
Yes.
And there was an engraved option in there.
Yeah. It was typically $2, $2.50, $5. Then a 650 gun was like plated in
$6.50.
yeah, to extra. Yeah. And I think they even got in, like the gold-plated guns were like a $12 option. Got into the really nice stuff. Yeah, crazy when you think about it now. You figure Winchester was getting at least half that money probably of that upgrade. So an engraver was getting $1 or $2 to cut a gun. I haven't ran it through an inflation calculator, but I'm probably charging more than they were getting at this point in the game. My goal is not to copy it perfect, just to get something kind of close to what they were doing. I get the look and feel. When you do a lot of these factory patterns, you really start to see the economy of line that those guys used. They were good at making it look like a lot with not much. That's what they paid them to do.
So what do you mean by economy of line?
Well, it's not a lot of lines there, but it looks like a whole lot of work. The gun looks really nice, but there isn't a whole lot there. Like this is, looking at this, it's a single game scene gun, so this is probably $2.50 engraving. Now, it's got both panels done on the action too, so it might be $5 gun, because it's got a little bit on the barrel, I guess, so it's probably a $5 gun.
And you're just laying it on there with a mechanical pencil?
Yeah, .03 Eversharp. I hit it with this piece of modeling clay. It fogs it. And I can draw on that so I can see it, but if I touch it, I smear it. But it's halfway durable. I mean, you can drag your hand across it once maybe and not ruin it. It's just not real durable. So you got to be careful. Key is just getting the scroll pattern laid out more or less like they laid it out, so it looks right. A lot of guys do this a lot of different ways. Some guys photocopy it and transfer it and try to get it right down to the nitty-gritty of perfection, but I'm after a facsimile of an original pattern, not the original pattern. A lot of those early guys were all European trained, and then as things went along, more Americans got involved. Totally different quality and style of work. The European trained guys were much better trained on their scroll work. The American guys, though, kind of had the upper hand on American animals to took the Europeans a while to figure out how to do the animals that we had. So some of them are pretty funky in the early guns. Like that. Enough curve to it. Now I can erase that with that modeling clay too. I can just fog over that. Back out of there. Gives you that road map. This is kind of an unusual one because he flowered this end and he scrolled the other. Usually if he flowers one end, he flowers the other.
So were these patterns set by the manufacturer, or did they kind of, the engravers have a chance to just...
I would imagine the engravers played a role in setting the patterns, but the patterns were standard patterns, so to speak. You could pick your game animal, you know, if you wanted to. If you ran it through the custom shop, you could pick your game animal. If you just ordered engraving, I think it was random what you got. Some guns have a letter with them, you know, from the factory. You can still get that letter. It tells you how the gun was ordered. It was an ordered gun. It's called a lettered gun. And that letter is from the custom shop, and it'll tell you what the value of the engraving was and everything that was done to the gun. I missed out a little bit there, didn't I? A lot of this engraving was kind of designed. They didn't work like we do. It's designed to be cut from one side, basically, so they can. Because all they had, if anything, was they would have had this axis in their ball where I'm on a turntable. So I have compound centering capabilities. Gotta be real careful not to drag a finger while you're doing that. Takes your pattern right off. Concentrating on your cut, not on your hand, and you make a mess. One shaving. It's the way you want that to run. If you get that single shaving like that, you know you got a nice even cut going. Just a little bit of a flat spot right there I'm going to fix while I'm here. Throw that out a little bit. Okay. I usually go back kind of to my beginning and start my secondary. Just want to get that primary scroll cut. That sets the field, you know where everything is going to be. You always want to kind of keep in mind this is kind of all a pattern. And things like the start of that will always be below the end of that, and you just kind of work your way out, and you can kind of put all this together, and it all kind of fits. So we're not going to cut that one quite where I drew it. Ended up it didn't quite fit there. You got to be flexible enough to make little changes like that on the fly. It'll be here forever. This gets a punched background, so I'm cutting a pretty good perimeter line here around these inner scrolls. Keeps my punch away from those when I start punching.
Do you punch those with a punch or with your engraver?
Yeah, with a punch, hammer to punch. Do that punched background. Some people call it a beaded background, but it's a dot punch. Leaves a raised spherical surface. I don't always cut exactly what I draw. You get a scroll going and sometimes that scroll just kind of starts flowing, and you try to change that flow and you'll really have a problem. Your head kind of gets to where it can just make a perfect scroll after a while, and if you start interrupting that, you'll start getting into some serious issues. Scroll works real organic, and you gotta let it kind of do what it's doing. Kind of let your head do it, it'll be just fine. Start overthinking it and you'll start ruining it. It's the biggest problem I think beginners get into. They try so hard to do perfect lines that they overthink it, so you're just getting your head out of the way and letting it happen. Adjustments. That's the beauty of that, being able to slide that ball on that turntable. I can recenter up on another scroll. Where if my ball was sitting on the bench, I would have to slide my part in the ball to get over a center pivot again. But by being centered on the turntable, I just slide the vise around the turntable. Works out a lot better. They almost never cut straight lines in their engraving. Especially the European guys. They're really good at little nuances that you look at it and you think it's a flower or this or that. They were really good at doing that. American engravers never quite got that same touch going. And I don't always bother to recenter. I don't mind working scrolls off center a bit. Sometimes I find I get a better scroll when I don't center.
Plays into it being natural.
Yeah, it plays into it being natural. Yeah, you just gotta get your head out of the way. Sometimes your mind's your worst enemy. This is a hard cut here coming off this primary scroll and flowing into that secondary. I could not do that, but this particular pattern, it was how it was done. And trying to capture the feel of that pattern, I'll usually do it the way that guy did it. Just putting that slight irregularity in that gives that a little bit of a leaf denotation there, and kind of changes that game up. Clarity down how I drew that. Catch these guys and chip there. The old guns like this one are really nice to cut because the steel's really soft and kind of really pure. Just nice and creamy. New guns are a pain in the butt. Metals are hard, you're always breaking your points. This stuff you might cut a whole action and never lose a point. Just the slightest chip in that point and you notice it changes how it cuts. Starts messing with everything. How it tracks. fogging that keeps it all nice and flat so you can see. Maximum contrast, minimum reflections.
So that first pass is your main lines.
Yeah, what I do is I go in and I lay it out, and I always cut the primary scroll first because it's where everything works off of that. Even though I got it all laid out, I always cut the primary scroll first, then go back and start cutting the secondary stuff. Usually cut the inners first, and then like these guys, I knew these little flute lines were going to be in here where the leaf forms. So I just went ahead and cut those because I know they're going to be there. Now I'm going back and I'm putting in the primary shade lines, and that then sets everything up for how the shading is going to flow. Like on the leaves, is it going to flow from the center vein of the leaf out, or is it going to flow from an edge vein in? And this is a little confusing on this one because like this leaf's flowing from the outside in, and this one's flowing more of a center vein, this one's a center vein. So this guy is a little confusing how he worked. Not unusual, but just a little confusing how he worked. And you run into that a lot on these older patterns, is how these guys worked. Some of them are real orderly, and some of them aren't near as orderly. Some of these guys you can just, you know how they did it, and you just can copy it real easy. And some of them about drive you nuts. And I just try to get it to where my shade lines are similar. Like I said, I'm not going for cut by cut copy here. I want the general feel of what they were doing. And just like where he starts his scroll here up high, as opposed to this scroll starting down low. And those are just little things that really change how that looks in the end. Just when you're trying to get the feel for an original pattern, every little nuance like that becomes important. Whereas if I was engraving it for, just myself, my own pattern, then it might not be. I wouldn't be doing some of this. I'd be doing it differently. Here we're going for an actual feel of another guy's work from the late 1800s, so requires a different touch. That's probably enough. I gotta get back where I should be. Shade lines are just a lot lighter. A lot of times a lot longer. You gotta get kind of good at running parallel lines so things work out. Some things I do with a single point tool, they weren't. They did them with a shader. You cut multiple lines in one pass. And you can do that, it's just not my normal way of going about that. Sometimes I cut lines backwards like that, where I start deep and then go shallow, as opposed to just coming in shallow. And the reason I did that was because cutting into that deep primary scroll there, it's almost impossible to start that cut shallow down at that scroll. So it's easier to start that line out there where I want bare metal and then go shallow. Just a cut there. You're working in such small dimensions. See, I just erased my lines off over there. A lot of times when I'm cutting, I'm not even watching the tool, the tip of the tool that's cutting the shaving. I'm watching some other part of the tool. Like right here, I'm actually watching the inside corner. And that's how I was holding my offset for my line. Run that real parallel little line there. Back, another line inside of that one. Cutting really fine stuff. Scroll works really easy because you can hide anything in here. Nobody will ever know the difference. Lettering, you have no room for mistakes. So I'd rather cut scroll work all the time, but do a lot of lettering. Now, modern engraving, we expect a lot different. We expect things to be much more realistic, where this engraving is much more stylistic. European guys were all trained in real traditional patterns and canvas sleeves and things. And they could duplicate that stuff all day long. American engravers are a little different. Some were formally trained in a lot more. Their entire families of engravers, like the Ulriches and things, that the whole family engraved. Sons would come along and become engravers and go on for generations. Sometimes good and sometimes bad. Some of the Ulriches weren't much as engravers. Some of them were really good, some of them were not. Out. Just a set of shaders there. kind of like drawing a really permanent pen and ink. You can hide things. Fixing things is difficult. Said the scroll work you can kind of get away with about anything, but if you make a major mistake, it's a problem. Somebody has a good metal eraser, yeah. Kind of a slow progression of primaries, secondaries, building your shade lines up. Get everything the way you want it. Except this is shaded differently than a modern piece would be shaded, but it's not a modern piece.
How do they shade modern pieces?
People expect a lot more. They expect a lot more cuts, and they just expect a lot more out of the piece. Where this stuff was largely stylized, kind of had a pattern to everything, and now we kind of judge engraving by how much detail is there and how many fine shade lines are cut. It's just different. I like working these old patterns because they were designed by people that, like I said, they were working economy of line. They were doing really nice patterns that look really nice, well designed and things, but they have a minimal amount of work in them. Where now we kind of do everything because we can. I mean, these guys, 100 years ago, they weren't working under a scope like I am at things. They couldn't see what I can see. They couldn't sharpen tools like I can sharpen tools. And now, just because we can lay in all these fine details and stuff, everybody thinks we should. So you end up with a lot of engraving that's kind of rich on detail and poor on design. Where these guys were all classically trained, and so their design capabilities were spot on every time they touched something. Where today, that's often is not the case. There are things you see today you wish people didn't do. It's not, they don't have good bones, they're not designed well. These guys, everything was designed flawlessly. All the elements in their leaf fit together. there we go. Pretty simple.